Bannerlord have released their 5th statement about Bannerlord's multiplayer and the upcoming features for it. And I decided it would be interesting maybe for some people for me to go through this and to give my opinion on what's in it and to talk about maybe some things that I think possibly should be in it or hopefully will come later down the line. So there'll be a link to this in the description if you just want to read it yourself. I know that quite a few people that watch my videos don't use the forums or don't use them regularly enough perhaps to have seen this since it's only from yesterday. So I do recommend going and having a look because it's a little glimpse into what Telod's plans are right now for multiplayer. Obviously, it's not the extent of everything they're planning for it, I imagine, but it does tell you what they're focusing on immediately. So it's not hugely long, but I will start with the section on combat, since I think that's the bit that people are probably most interested in hearing my opinion on. So yeah, let's start with the first one, which is to do with knockdown times and dismount times for cavalry and the animations for that. So it says improvements, but I'm going to assume that by that it means the time being reduced that it takes to get up for infantry. As it is right now, if you get knocked down by a horse going at full speed, you get knocked down for 4 or 5 seconds, which is a very, very long time. I mean, I don't know exactly how long it is in Warband, but I'm going to say about 2 seconds. At most in warbands, it's enough time that infantry can react to the fact you've been knocked down and hit you on the floor, which is all it needs to be, that it's enough time for like one guy to get a hit in on you while you're knocked down, because that makes it a support utility. In Bannerlord, you kind of go flying when you get hit by a horse, which I suppose like animation-wise looks cool, I guess, and maybe is like more realistic as to what would happen if you got hit by a horse going at full speed. But in terms of balance, yeah, it's not great because you can be knocked by a cavalry going at full speed, and they can very, very easily stop by double tapping S, turn, and like literally they can bump you, do a full bump on you, send you flying, stop, turn, and hit you before you can even stand up. Which is quite extreme, and it gives enough time that basically every player on the enemy team, when you get knocked down, is like, let's just hit the guy lying on the floor, and there's time for them to do that. So I'm very glad that that's something they'll be changing. I believe they reduced the knockdown time slightly in a previous hotfix, but they said they needed new animations, so I presume that's why this says animation improvements. Presumably there'll be a new animation to make that work better, which is very, very good indeed. And then this dismount and get up time. So I presume this is the time when a cavalry is mounted on their horse dies, and how long it takes them to stand up. Now, this one is a little more ambiguous by what this means by dismount get up improvements. Does this mean it's going to take longer to get up for cavalry? Does it mean it's going to be shorter? Does it mean they won't be able to block with their shield? Now, that one definitely should be removed in my opinion. Cavalry definitely should not be able to block with their shield while they're standing up. That is very, very powerful. But yeah, I actually don't know whether this means it's going to be longer or shorter. I don't really see much of a reason to change how long it takes to get up. It could just be a new animation for it. It might not be making it longer or shorter at all. But I think the time it takes cavalry to stand up after they get dismounted is not too long, or too short. Seems quite reasonable to me. Maybe it should be made slightly shorter for cavalry to get up, but it's really nowhere near as egregious as the issue with getting knocked down from being full bumped by a horse. So yeah, I don't know exactly what that means, but in general, this is a very, very good thing. The knockdown thing will make infantry a lot more fun to play in group fights. You're not gonna get you're not gonna get knocked like out of the fight, like literally knocked out of the fight for 5 or so seconds when you get full knocked. It's so frustrating when you're, a full health infantry, you're going in as your tanky, you've picked heavy imp, you're going in as a tanky boy, you're prepared to sort of play the long game in the fight, survive for a long time, and then you get knocked over and, 4 enemies decide to hit you while you're knocked down, and suddenly you're either dead or blackbarred. And you're basically out of the fight immediately when that happens. So it will make infantry a lot more pleasant to play, especially heavy infantry, who obviously being a lot slower, much more likely to get knocked down. So hopefully it will make infantry more fun and will sort of make Nox more of a utility rather than just something that's incredibly powerful. So yeah, very good change. The next one is certain swing-related inconsistencies. Now, I don't actually have any idea what this means, frankly. What does swing-related inconsistencies mean? Does this mean clipping that happens with swings, where they don't connect properly along the blade? Does it mean damage inconsistencies with different parts of the weapon? Those are both swing-related inconsistencies that this could be referring to. I don't know, is the answer. Is it the blade starting at different points when you're in a different stance? That's something as well. It could be. I'd have absolutely no idea. This is one thing with this, is that it would be nice if there was a bit more, like sub points on what these are. Like this is animation improvements. It'd be nice if we had like a little sub point that said making it take longer to get up, making it making it take less time to get up, making it take less time to get up after being dismounted. Like it would be nice if there was like a little sub point that said that, for instance. So here again, this one as well, it'd be very, very nice if we had a little sub points telling us what these swing related inconsistencies are, because I mean there's comments on the thread of people guessing what that could be. Um, your guess is as good as mine. I don't know. But any removal of inconsistencies is surely a good thing, so I'm not going to focus too much on that. The next one is recovery delay for missed kicks. Very, very important. In my opinion, I've commented on several threads about the need for more recovery delay on missed kicks. And the reason why I think that's so important is that right now, it's called offensive kicking is what people call it, is where you can feint or hold an attack. And as you're doing so, you can kick. And what that means is that because you're already putting pressure on your opponent with your feint or your held attack, and you kick, they have no opportunity to swing back, because by the time they react to it, and they have very limited time to react to it because they're under pressure from your feint or hold, right? So they can't immediately swing back because they're under pressure. So it takes time for their brain to recognize that you're no longer holding and you've kicked before they can swing back. And but when they do swing back, the swing is not fast enough to hit someone who has done that. So offensive kicking is very, very powerful because it's very difficult to be punished for it. Especially in 1v1, it's basically impossible to be punished for it if you do it properly. And in a group situation, it's, you can just sort of run up to people and force them into a corner and kick them. It's very, very powerful. So hopefully a recovery delay will add a bit of nuance to that and reduce its dominance, make it a bit more skill-based, make it something that you get punished for if you miss. And that's the really big thing, is that if you land a kick, you get a free hit, right? Which is a very, very big deal, especially if you're playing against Aserai, for instance, and they're playing Tribal Warrior, and they have very, very little health. If you kick someone and slash them in the head, slash them in the head, they could be, you can instantly take them under half health. So if you're playing something like Tribal Warrior or any class with low health. I use Tribal Warrior as an example because it's the staple Aserai infantry. So the fact that you can kick their staple infantry and do half of their HP in one move, with essentially very, very limited chance of being punished, is something that really holds the Aserai infantry back at the moment. And certainly in my scrims I've played with RM and the opinion of the other RM players, I know that people do consider Aserai to be very weak on certain closed maps, where your Tribal Warrior infantry just gets shredded, and part of it is because if you get kicked, you're basically dead, or at the very least, you're going to be taken under half HP in one move. At which point you have to play very defensively because you're such a light infantry, you could just be killed very, very quickly. So recovery delay makes it hopefully more of a skill-based, more of a timing thing that some people are not just gonna be spamming E and offensive kicking repeatedly. They're actually gonna, the risk of getting punished will be sufficient that kicking will not be something that you just do always. That it will be something that it becomes now situational, where someone's backed against a wall, so you kick them. Someone's backed against a cart, you kick them. Someone's in a corner, you kick them. You've got them between two players, you kick them. Different utility uses which make it still a very important tool, but not the tool. If you know what I'm saying. Now I have some concern about this affecting kicks where you don't have a shield. I think this should recovery delay. I actually think making it variable could be. Normally, I'm very much against variable delays, so it pains me to say this, but I think making it variable for whether you have a shield or whether you don't have a shield should probably happen. As in, you should have a longer recovery delay if you kick without a shield than if you, sorry, a longer recovery delay if you kick with a shield than if you kick without one. Now, I say that very cautiously because obviously there's the consideration of shock infantry, who are able to kite very easily with longer weapons, faster movement speed, and they often will kite with their longer weapon and faster movement speed, and then when you get close, they'll kick, right? So shock infantry have a very reliable tool set for dealing with slow, heavy infantry. And if their recovery delay was shorter, as I just said, potentially it should be, then, you know, they will be able to more reliably kite and kick than heavy infantry, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. I think that would have to be seen in game to see how dramatic that was. But the fact that the shock infantry would still have an additional recovery delay on what they do now, right? So heavy infantry would still be able to potentially punish players who are kiting and kicking, which is really all that people want, I think, is that if you are kiting and kicking, or if you're offensive kicking by just running up to people and kicking them, that you can be punished for it. Those two extremes are what people want to punish. They want to punish people who just run up to you and kick you, and they want to punish people who are kiting and kicking. Because those are two, in my opinion, anti-fun, which is a quote I've used several times, anti-fun moves, right? They're a detriment to the actual melee combat. So hopefully that will hope to negate in some way those two play styles of kiting or being extremely aggressive and kicking, and hopefully bring it more back to the melee element. That remains to be seen. Obviously, it will depend on how big this recovery delay is. I don't think it should be that big, but it should just be enough that a player who reacts very quickly can punish a missed kick. So yeah, that remains to be seen. Crossbows being too accurate and too effective in close range is a big one. Players seem to be able to, at the moment, be able to fire a crossbow before the animation has even happened, if you know what I mean. So you can run up to someone who's got a crossbow out, and they can, you know, hold their shot, or they can run away and turn and shoot instantly with no, you know, before the animation is properly completed. It makes it basically, if you're an infantry and you push someone with a crossbow, you have to hold your shield up in their face until they put their crossbow away, or until it gets to the point where it negates their shot. Because I've had it where they hold their crossbow, they hold their shot, and you're right up in their face. And in Warband, you don't actually have to be that close to someone before, when you open an attack, it will force their shot. It will prevent them from shooting, right? Anyone who's played Warband knows what I mean. Where if you get close to an archer or someone who's got javelins out or a crossbow, and you hold an attack in front of them, it does the little bump sound on them, and they can't shoot. It stops them from shooting. Everyone who's played Warband knows what I mean, and that doesn't really exist in Bannerlord, at least not to the same extent. And people with crossbows can literally hold them right up in your face, and you have to get so close, in fact, that you know, the second, and the bolt releases so quickly that the second you start blocking, they just release their left click, and I mean, at close range, something like an arbalist, you know, that's gonna absolutely destroy your health. If you've taken any damage in the round prior to that, it's just gonna kill you. So reducing that effectiveness at close range is definitely a big plus. So I'm very happy about that. I hope it's done in the way it is in Warband, where it sort of knocks, they get repeatedly knocked if they have their a ranged weapon out while you're in melee range. I think that's a very good way of doing it. And actually the kick thing will affect this as well, because right now crossbowmen can hold their shot, and then when you get very close they can kick you and shoot you. I'm quite sure that's still a thing anyway. But yeah, this is another very good change, because people find that very, very frustrating. I find it very frustrating. Hopefully we'll make things a bit more will make crossbowmen have to actually get their melee weapon out when you start to approach them, rather than just holding their shot until you get damaged. um, so yeah, those are the combat changes they've got here. All of these are good. We don't know exactly what string-related inconsistencies means, but the knockdown and the recovery delay, in my opinion, are two very, very good changes. Very, very good changes. And the crossbow change will hopefully remove something that's frustrating. Um, so I'm very happy that Tailworlds are focusing on all of those things. There are things missing from that. Lots of things missing from that. But I think it's probably best just to focus on what they have here, because there's quite a bit more, and I've spoken quite a lot about just the combat bit. So maybe I will save that for a different video or something like that, where I talk about things I want, my wish list for Bannerlord's combat. So on the skirmish section, they've just put cavalry are too impactful, infantry are. Well, the thing is that this doesn't. I don't. And I'm going to assume what this means is that they want infantry to be more impactful and they want cavalry to be less impactful. So these are presumably just statements of how things are right now, that infantry are less and cavalry are too. In general, this is true. Infantry are not as impactful as they should be, and cavalry are too impactful. This knockdown change will be a very, very big one for affecting this. Absolutely, this will make cavalry a lot less useful in terms of the knockdowns being OP. So that will reduce their impact, and it will make infantry more prevalent in fights. That said, there are other changes. Being able to cleave through a horse and hit the rider in the same swing is something that I think is a really good feature from Warband. Highly unrealistic, obviously, which presumably is why Tailworlds are very cautious of implementing it. But in my opinion, it's a very, very, very good feature. Because what it means is that when a cavalry is very close to infantry, the infantry can just swing at the horse and it will hit the rider, right? So what that means is that the rider cannot block attacks with their horse and stab you at the same time. So in Bannerlord, what cavalry can do is if you swing at them, they can block the swing with their horse, and whilst they're doing that, they can counterattack with their stab. So whilst you're hitting their horse, they will stab you in the face with their spear, right? And if you try to hit their horse, they will do this. So essentially, when cavalry are close to you in Bannerlord, your only option is to block or to, get to an angle where they can't stab you. Because if you try to hit their horse, they're just going to stab you in the face. And obviously, because you're mid-animation hitting their horse, you can't block. So you just get hit. So it means that if as a heavy infantry, let's say I got my Western longsword and I hit this heavy horse for 20 damage out of its 200 health, whatever, and in exchange for doing 20 damage to the horse, I get stabbed in the face for 30 or 40 pierce damage by the cavalry, which is obviously not a worthwhile trade. And what it means is that infantry are very scared to actually hit horses in close range, because you could basically, I mean, if you're playing heavy infantry and you get stabbed for 30, 40 damage in your face, that is a huge percentage of your health gone, and all you've traded is 20 horse damage. So that's part of the reason why, and if cleave existed as it does in Warband, basically what it means is that when you hit the horse, the swing will keep going to hit the rider. So what that forces the rider to do is to block, because they can't block the attack with their horse, so they have to right click and block it with their weapon or with their shield. So that means that they can't simultaneously block the attack with their horse and stab you. They have to choose either to block or to risk attacking, and if they risk attacking, then what will probably happen is the infantry will hit them through the horse. Now, as far as I'm aware, that does less damage to the rider, because when the swing travels through the horse, it does less damage to the rider. And frankly, I think in Warband it actually does too much damage to the rider when you swing through a horse and hit the rider in the same attack. I think what would be a good way of implementing this, if it were to be implemented to Bannerlord, was that an infantry, when they would swing through a horse to hit the rider in the same attack, that it would do considerably less damage to the rider than it does to the horse. So all it would really achieve in such a case is that it would interrupt the rider's attack. it would prevent the horsemen from blocking with their horse and stabbing you at the same time. They wouldn't be able to do those two things simultaneously anymore because they would get interrupted by the swing going through their horse. Even if it only did 10 damage to them, it would interrupt their attack and it would prevent cavalry from sitting in front of infantry, blocking the attack with their horse and stabbing the infantry in the same go. It would prevent that. Now, I don't think Telwood will implement that for a second. I don't think they'll vote for a second. I think they probably consider it to be too unrealistic to have a place in Bannerlord, which I mean, it is unrealistic. You can't cleave through a horse with a one-handed weapon and damage the rider in the same go. But it is very good gameplay-wise because it prevents cavalry from hanging around and using their horse to block attacks. It prevents that. So yeah, that's one thing I think they should do to readdress this balance, but I don't think they will. Cavalry being too impactful on this as well. Cavalry gets shredded by archers right now, and I do think that is too much. I had suggested somewhere else that they should just completely reduce momentum damage across the board, and I still maintain that they should do that. Reduce the momentum effect on every damage calculation, because that would make it so that cavalry don't drive by one-hit heavy infantry with their weapons, and it would also make it so that archers don't shred horses as much. If there was a global reduction in the momentum effect, then all that would have to be done after that is to rescale weapon damages so that infantry weapons go back up to being, because it would reduce the damage of infantry weapons if the momentum effect was reduced. So infantry weapons would have to be rescaled up, bows would potentially have to be scaled up a little bit, lances would have to be scaled up a bit, and so on. But what it would do is make damage more consistent and make it so that horses don't get shredded by archers while they're going quickly. Because right now, I believe, I'm gonna say like a light horse that's going quickly. If you have an arbalist and you shoot that gun at full speed, that thing is going down in 1-2 shots. Like, um, even potentially a heavy horse. Ignore my Steam messages getting spammed. But yeah, I think that would actually help to address the whole balance of cavalry, archers, infantry would, I think, be better off if momentum effect was reduced. Now, again, another thing I don't think they'll do, I believe Nine responded to one of my posts about that when I suggested it, and he said that they weren't going to do it because it would require them to rescale all of the weapon damages. I do think it is a worthwhile trade because I think it would make things feel better for every class. But yeah, I don't think they will. So 2 suggestions there that I think they should do to help this, but I don't think they will. So I'm going to go through the rest of these quite quickly because skirmish and combat are the things I'm most concerned with. The rest of it is less so important to me. All right, so captain mode. Separation of perks and troops for captain mode. This is an absolutely incredible change because right now they're trying to do skirmish and captain using the same perks for both modes, which is impossible. It is frankly impossible to balance captain mode and skirmish mode at the same time using one perk set that they share. That is not possible. And so far it's been completely failing. It's been completely failing because balances if archers are too strong, if cavalry are too strong in skirmish, so they nerf cav for skirmish, that could make cavalry, which are already not the best in captain, even weaker. I believe the meta in captain right now is archers, if I'm correct, because they just shred horses. I think that is true. I mean, I don't play captain. I just think I read that. So while for captain, cavalry might need a bit more strength than they have right now, for skirmish they need less. So you have these juxtapositions where something is too strong in one but too weak in the other. So when you try to balance them simultaneously, it doesn't work. So separating these is absolutely the best thing to do possible for both modes. People from both modes should be very happy about that. So ranged AI not being effective, cavalry AI not being effective, AI abuses by player captains. Again, I don't play captain, I know nothing about these, but presumably these are issues which have been raised by players in captain mode, so I'm sure those will help them. Siege and TDM increasing the cost of cavalry units, very good. Very, very good. I know how frustrating sort of low-level players or casual players, maybe a nice way of putting it, on things like TDM and Siege feel when they're just getting knocked repeatedly by Cav. Cav obviously should have a much more limited role in Siege. I mean, that kind of goes without saying. Doesn't mean they shouldn't have a role, which they should, but Cavalry shouldn't be dominating Siege. And again, TDM, it's very much, I constantly see complaints in the chat about Cav. So um, increasing their cost for these two modes is a very, very good idea, and is the first step to what this is saying, which is to separating the stats for all of these different modes, which is a very, very good thing, like a very, very good thing. Obviously, it's an issue brought on by the class system itself. You know, I have to shill for the warband system every opportunity, warband gear system every opportunity I get, and this is one of those opportunities where I can say if they had the warband gear system, this problem would not exist. Um, I don't believe the problem would exist. Maybe for captain, because you'd still need troop stats and like troop class system for captain is it has to be there, frankly, because you need to be able to have those troop groups for captain. But yeah, Tailwars didn't want to have a different system for different modes, which is fair enough, but at least now they will be separating the classes and the perks and the costs between different modes, which is very, very good. I will come to this last because this is things further down the road. So let's scroll back up to the top. So we've got in-game voice chat. That'll be useful for skirmish and captain. I hope this is not in Siege and TDM. That is going to be an absolute nightmare if it's in Siege and TDM. But for captain and skirmish, people who want to take it a bit more seriously, having in-game voice chat is great. Obviously, if you've got some questionable characters in your game, then you can just mute them. So as long as the mute feature is there, this is fine. Duel finally coming into play, very, very good. Right now, there's like a private TDM server where you just uplock at people to duel them. This is very, very good. Observer mode, again, very, very good for people that want to watch Captain Skirmish games, being able to stream them with additional features. So this does refer to the ability to stream them. Of course, there's a streamer mod in competitive warband, which was made by Captain Lust, Frank, which has like health bars. It has like the players at the sides with their stats up on the screen the whole time. Hopefully the observer mode takes inspiration from that, so that whoever is streaming can see the health on different players. Maybe they have damage stats. They've got the stats up at the side of the screen, for instance, just so that they've got like lots of features which let someone who is streaming a game have lots of knowledge about which player is doing how much damage, what the stats are on every player, available to them very, very quickly without having to press tab, that they can see the health bars and things, maybe even the health on horses. Anything like that that lets a streamer be able to have all this information on hand, gives them more to talk about, it makes it more interesting to watch because you can see all the different information. So very, very good. Hopefully it'll be better. Sound occlusion nearly done. I've seen some complaints about this. Personally, it doesn't bother me too much, but the fact that they're fixing it is good. MP, HUD, and lobby UI improvements. Again, not something of great concern to me, but UI improvements hopefully will look nicer. Reporting tools, very nice. Kick player and mute all functions. So mute all is great. If you're just playing skirmish or captain and you just want to put music on, or you're talking to your friends on Discord or something, whatever, you just mute everyone in game and you're fine. Kick player, I don't know if this means poll to kick like you have in Warband, where a player can submit a poll and everyone on the server votes. If that is what that is, then great, because you'll be able to kick people that are trolling in a dual server or something, or somebody's trolling in skirmish. So very nice if that is what that is, but I'm not sure that it is. But improvements on reporting is definitely good. Level progression. Again, I don't know exactly what the level progression system is going to. What is, so first part is nearly done. What is the first part? It doesn't actually tell us, right? Which is why these sub bullet points would be nice, so that we knew what the first part of the level progression system is. So what do we progress in? So right now, when you play games, you gain XP, and it increases your level on the menu. What does your level give you? Right now, nothing. So presumably this first part means that your level will start giving you something. It would be nice if we could see what that was. If there was a little sub point to tell us, but anything is good for progression. And later on we'll tie in with customization. Again, we don't know what the customization system will be. Presumably it's going to be some sort of skin system, not necessarily paid skins, I'm not going to jump on that as some people have, but some sort of system whereby you can change the skin and the appearance of different classes through this system. So lots of new badges, that is nice. Everyone loves their little badges. Nothing wrong with that at all. Work on siege maps and new skirmish maps, always nice to have new maps, so very nice. Fixes and improvements on current maps, good. Improvements to matchmaking experience. It doesn't tell us exactly what this means, but presumably maybe some sort of balancing. Personally, I think there should be balance, even in the most casual matchmaking, I think there should be balancing, not ranked, but that it should take all of the players that are in the lobby that queue into a game and maybe just consider, even if it's just based on KD, right? Even if it just is a very rough thing based on KD to sort of kind of balance the two teams a little bit, any kind of little balancing would be nice for matchmaking, because you can end up with a terrible team or you can just stomp the other team and nobody dies. So a little bit of balancing would be nice, just in every game, but that's probably not what it means. It probably means to do with queue times and things like that, but anything there is nice. So all of this stuff is nice. So back down to the other features down the road, customization system. So there's a little bit up here about this. So I guess this gives us a little bit of explanation about what this is. So you get to unlock new pieces of armor by playing and customize your character. So it says and customize your character. So I wonder if this is some extra like appearance options maybe for your character. I don't know. It could just be referring back to this armor pieces. So I'm going to assume these are just cosmetics for the classes. So basically skins, they're avoiding using the word, but I don't have a problem with skins that you unlock by playing, and it does say by playing. I have absolutely no problem at all with players unlocking skins by playing and being able to customize their character in that way. So hopefully that is what this means, and that would be excellent. So ranked mode, very nice. Everyone loves a good little ranked mode. One concern I do have is that if you had like a ranked skirmish and regular skirmish, I don't really think the player base is sufficient for both to run simultaneously at the moment. Maybe at prime time it could work, but I feel like you're probably just going to end up with everyone playing ranked and nobody playing the casual mode. That's my opinion. Or if people get frustrated with having unbalanced teams in ranked mode, they may start playing only casual. Presumably ranked mode will have a limitation on group queuing. Ranked mode will be horrible if you can 6-stack with your clan. No, I would not play it. If you could group queue in ranked mode, then there'll be no point playing it. Maybe limit it to duos. Maybe limit it, you can only group queue with one other person or with 2 other people. You definitely should not be able to 6-stack ranked mode. If you can 6-stack ranked mode, people are just going to play with their clans, and anyone that's playing by themselves is just going to get bodied and go back to the casual mode. So hopefully this is done properly. Player skill ranks, again, is a nice little thing everyone likes to play to get a higher rank. Presumably these skill ranks will be tied in with some badges, which they talked about, lots of new badges. So presumably when you get a certain skill rank, you'll get a badge. Maybe a piece of armor. That would be quite cool if you got a piece of armor for reaching a certain rank. A very good incentive that would be for people to play ranked. And then here it is, the holy grail at the end, battle mode. Single life per round game mode. Hallelujah. This is what I want. This is what lots of people that play Warband want. A single life competitive mode. Now, this doesn't say competitive, to be very clear. This doesn't say competitive. It just says a single life per round game mode. It may just be added as TDM and CJAR now onto the lobby system, just, a 60 cap server, whatever, and it's battle mode. Even still, the fact that it is there means that further down the line, mods which add battle as a competitive mode will be very easily done. Well, I mean, they've been doable even if they didn't add it officially, but adding it officially is a nice little gesture. Hopefully you can queue into a battle type thing with skirmish. I don't think that will be possible. I do not think they're going to add it so that you can queue into a 6v6 battle mode. I don't think they're going to add that, but it's a nice fantasy. um, so yeah, this is the statement regarding plans for multiplayer, Volume 5, their 5th such statement. I hope this has been interesting. My thoughts on these various things. Again, you're welcome to read this yourself. It is in the description. Generally, a very, very promising outlook from this. Nothing here that I have a problem with. Some things don't go far enough, but it's nice to see that improvements are coming. So yeah, thank you for watching.